Next up, I'm very excited. This is one of our title sponsors, but I also have something to talk about. This is Brian Wallace, who I've worked with and known for quite a while, the VP of Digital Marketing and Media at BlackBerry, who is going to speak to your brand is a network. Brian?
Good afternoon. I'm just trying to get my bearings here. This is actually the second time I've had the opportunity to speak at a CM Summit. Actually, I spoke here about 2 years ago. And I just want to take a brief moment before I start my presentation just to give a thanks to John and his team for putting on these events. And that isn't me just kissing ass because he's invited me to speak here. I actually came to my first event, I think it must have been 5 years ago. It was in San Francisco, I think. And I got to tell you, it had a profound impact on me personally and my career, and certainly the fortunes of our company at the time. Because it very clearly showed yesterday what the world was going to be focused on today. More importantly, it very clearly showed me yesterday what everything we were doing and focused on and investing in was completely wrong at the time. It was a devastating event to go to find out how wrong we were and what we were doing. But as a result, we absolutely shifted our focus, increased significantly our focus on digital and social at the time. We've had tremendous success as a result. So I'm just very happy to be here to be able to contribute back a little bit for that. So thank you. So I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm sitting in a conference like this and I'm watching a speaker, I'm always looking for some kind of proof that this person isn't just a theorist, isn't just talking about social media digital. They actually kind of bled this a little bit, have actually delivered the goods of it. So I'm always, what I imagine to be like gang tattoos in prison. They always tell your story. So before I get into the presentation, I thought I'd kind of flash a little bit about our stats at RIM, only because I think it speaks to a little bit about this point and also provides a little bit of context to what I'm going to talk about. So BlackBerry is the fastest growing online brand in the world. It's the second most social brand in the world. It's a top 10 brand on Facebook. It's by far the #1 mobile brand on Facebook, bigger than iPhone, bigger than all our competitors combined, quite frankly. And it's a top 5 brand on Twitter. And all this is great and very interesting. I'd love after the show to talk to anybody about what we're doing here and how we've succeeded, et cetera, to a large extent because of this event. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. What I want to talk to you about is in doing all this stuff really, really well, we've actually ended up, quite by accident, building what I think is probably one of the world's largest content networks. And so what I want to walk you through is how this happened, how it came about, because I think a lot of the brands, in fact all brands, are building similar networks to this. You just might not know it. And along the way, talk about the opportunities and challenges these kind of networks are presenting for our entire industry, not even just brands, advertisers, media agencies, content publishers, content creators, et cetera. So I'll start here. This is a clip from the TV show Glee. We all know Glee. We all watch Glee, I'm sure. But more importantly, most brands here have either advertised on Glee or planning to advertise on Glee or wish they could advertise on Glee. We certainly do too. But as importantly, this represents traditionally how brands created content networks and communication networks to their customers. They actually buy network time on other companies' networks, specifically here, television networks. And more specifically still, what you're buying is actually a proxy for eyeballs. You don't actually know how many people are actually watching these TV shows. More importantly, you don't actually know how many people are watching your advertisements. They're a proxy. They're an estimation. We don't actually know any of this. And traditionally, this is how networks were built. And then as we all know, along comes the web, and this created a very unique channel of communication, a very unique network. It was unique because we had this unique feedback mechanism. And it wasn't a proxy for eyeballs. There were literal eyeballs and literal behaviors we can measure. And as a result, it became a very effective channel for us in the network. And I'll draw your attention to the numbers at the bottom of the screen. These are actual sample numbers for BlackBerry. And I can tell you to reach the same amount of people online on television costs us 6x more. And to my mind, it's not as effective because, as we all know, you can't measure the behaviors, et cetera. They're all estimations. This had a very profound impact in our company, the effectiveness of this channel. So much so that in 2 short years, paid digital media became close to 50% of our media mix. And that was 3 years ago. We made that shift. And actually, it's a little higher than 50% today. The second channel of this network is what's traditionally called owned media. And yesterday, that just basically meant you had a website, wasn't terribly interesting, wasn't very material to the business. But with the advent of third-party sites hosting branded content like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, this channel has exploded for us, and I'm sure it's exploding for you guys. So much so that in a typical day today, we'll reach 60 million people with this channel alone. And that's great. It was very exciting. The problem is this grew so quickly, we weren't ready for all the content publishing and content creation needs this channel required to be effective. So what did we do? The first thing we did, we tried to create the content ourselves to fill this channel. And that quickly taught us two things. One, we sucked at it. We weren't very good at creating this content. And secondly, we couldn't scale to meet the demand. I couldn't hire enough people. I couldn't spend enough money to create relevant content to feed this channel. And yet I had 60 million people every day coming to this channel saying, give me relevant content. So what does a company do? We went to the content publishers. What do the content publishers do? Content publishers do what content publishers do. They wanted us to charge premium dollars for their content to distribute on this network. Again, not a scalable solution. So this is where we had our first aha moment. Here we are sitting on this, basically a content network that reaches 60 million plus people in desperate need of content. Content creators are in desperate need of networks to get their content on. Let's go just talk to them directly. So we went and talked to content creators directly, and a remarkable thing happened. First of all, they immediately understood what we were talking about. Didn't need to explain it. They weren't trying to sell us advertising, or they didn't see us as an ad platform. They understood us as a content network. So much so, and they were so excited by it, that they were willing, most of the time, just to give us the content for free, because they wanted us to find this audience. So that had a profound impact. Again, it solved a bunch of problems for us. First of all, I was never going to create a world-class content publishing, content creation capabilities within Research in Motion, my company that makes BlackBerry. We're a tech IP-based company. We're built not to talk to the outside world. There's literally buildings of lawyers surrounding me, preventing me from talking to the outside world. It makes a lot of sense. It wasn't in our DNA. But I could curate content and build capabilities around content curation for our audiences here. It also very clearly demonstrated to me that I wasn't in the business of just managing websites with a bunch of content and BlackBerry content on it. I was actually managing an ever-expanding premium content network. So the third layer is what we all call earned media and social media today. We all know this channel has its own unique challenges in that much of the media being generated isn't generated by brands themselves. They're generated by people talking about brands and generating the content itself. Now, sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. We all know this space well. In this case, these are people talking about BlackBerry. They're making recommendations. They're asking about applications, tech support, et cetera, et cetera. And a very interesting channel if you want to use it to monitor what's being said about your products and brands and services, et cetera. We all know. But if you look at this from a network perspective and you see it as a way to distribute and syndicate content for free, it dramatically expands the reach of this overall network. I'll illustrate by example. So again, we're a top 10 brand on Facebook. I think we have 15 or 16 million followers. What's more interesting to me, though, is Facebook did a study, and they showed that we're the most penetrated brand on Facebook. And what does that mean? It means those 15, 16 million followers on Facebook are actually connected, one degree connected, to 400 million of the close to 700 million users on Facebook. So when you're looking at this from a network perspective, that is a potential reach number for me. So increasingly, we're trying to curate content that is then syndicated across this potential 400 million person network on Facebook. So what does all this mean? How do you summarize all this? Well, what this all adds up to is this network will reach 1.5 billion people this year. I'm pausing for dramatic effect. 1.5 billion people. And much of this, and the infrastructure and the distribution of this content, is free. So I don't know about you guys, but this creates a ton of thought experiments for me that I started swirling through. Like, how do you monetize, or what are the monetization opportunities for a network like this? Tremendous. What if we sold advertising? What are the e-commerce capabilities and opportunities here? What if I actually started charging for content to be distributed on this network instead of buying it like we usually do? And probably 30 or 50 ideas that you guys are thinking about. Even more interesting, you got me thinking, other brands are creating these networks, probably much larger than ours. So imagine if a BlackBerry, a Coke, a Kraft, a Disney all got together, combined their networks into some sort of content guild, and sold advertising on it, or traded advertising in kind. What implications does this have for media agencies, for content publishers, for content creators, for brands? How do we need to organize ourselves internally and think about ourselves, and digital marketers? How do we think about ourselves in order to take advantage of all this opportunity? Finally, I just want to talk about what I think is disrupting, again, everything I'm just talking about, and that's mobile. So this is Lisa. She's going about her day in New York today. The device she's carrying with her knows where she is, knows where she came from, knows her likes, knows her dislikes. She's constantly getting this information updated in real time. So as a result, this device can serve her the most relevant content and offers, et cetera, that's most relevant to her in her space and time, as we all know. And we can't just think about these devices as smartphones. That's probably what everybody's thinking about today. Any device that can distribute content in the near future will have this capability. Your car, your refrigerator, your television, and it'll all be connected. So I think all of this has some profound implications for all things digital, all things marketing, for agencies, for content publishers, et cetera. I don't proclaim to have all the answers for this. My presentation today was to present something that generates a lot of discussion and questions. But I'll leave you with one point, and maybe another thought experiment for you that I've certainly been entertaining back home, is if we stop thinking about digital marketing as just a cost center within an organization to do marketing, but as an area of a company that's managing this ever-expanding premium content network, is digital marketing actually the largest untapped revenue opportunity within each of our respective companies? We're certainly having that conversation back at BlackBerry. I suggest all you guys go home today and start thinking about it this way as well. Thank you.